In the vast emptiness of space aboard Earth's orbital station Delta, there was only one constant more reliable than the artificial gravity: the creative string of multilingual profanity flowing from Bay 17. This particular symphony of swearing originated from beneath a malfunctioning quantum thruster, where Zeke "Lightning Hands" Rodriguez was currently engaged in his favorite activity, arguing with inanimate objects. Madre de Dios, which brain-dead penguin designed this configuration? A metallic clang echoed through the bay, followed by the distinctive sound of a wrench making contact with expensive equipment. Who looks at a Type 7 quantum manifold and thinks, you know what this needs to be installed upside down and backwards? Another clang rang out, this one accompanied by a spray of sparks and the sweet smell of ozone. Most mechanics would have called for specialized tools, or, at the very least, a diagnostic computer. Zeke, however, believed in a more direct approach. His trusty wrench, lovingly named Bessie, had yet to meet a problem it couldn't solve through the careful application of percussive maintenance. "Aha!" he exclaimed, sliding out from under the thruster. His dark hair was streaked with grease, and his coveralls bore the proud stains of 1,000 mechanical victories. "That'll teach you to question the laws of thermodynamics, you overpriced toaster." The repair logs would later show that Zeke had somehow managed to increase the thruster's efficiency by 47%, using nothing but a standard wrench and what one engineer described as terrifyingly creative abuse of basic physics. This was fairly typical for Lightning Hands Rodriguez, whose reputation for mechanical miracles was matched only by his legendary intolerance for poor engineering. Station scuttlebutt had it that he once fixed a critical life support failure with nothing but duct tape and spite. Another story claimed he'd reprogrammed a malfunctioning AI by threatening it with a socket wrench until it got its binary act together. The AI in question still developed a nervous tic whenever anyone picked up a wrench in its presence. Zeke was just about to start on his next project, a gravitational compensator that had been making suspicious squeaking noises, when the station's emergency broadcast system crackled to life. The sound made him jump, banging his head on an overhead panel. "Hee-ho, Dick!" He rubbed his head, glaring at the speakers as Admiral Chen's voice filled the bay. "Attention all personnel, at 0600 hours Earth Standard Time. We received an ultimatum from the Krax'thari Empire. Their fleet has entered the solar system, led by their elite warrior squad, the Obsidian Talons. They are demanding Earth's immediate and unconditional surrender." Zeke snorted, reaching for his coffee mug, a battered thing with "Don't confuse your Google search with my engineering degree" printed on the side. The liquid inside was thick enough to qualify as a new form of matter. "They have given us 12 hours to comply," the Admiral continued, "or face what they term absolute technological superiority." The mug paused halfway to Zeke's lips, a slow grin spread across his face, the kind of grin that had been known to make safety inspectors break out in cold sweats. "Technological superiority, eh?" he muttered, lovingly patting Bessie. "We'll just see about that." The United Earth Defense Council's emergency meeting was going about as well as you'd expect when faced with the imminent arrival of a technologically superior alien empire, which is to say, poorly. "They've got quantum-shifted battlecruisers." General Williams slammed his fist on the holotable, causing the 3D projection of the Krax'thari fleet to wobble. "Our best ships look like steam-powered rowboats in comparison." Admiral Chen rubbed her temples, studying the imposing silhouettes of the alien vessels. The Obsidian Talons flagship alone was larger than their 3 biggest carriers combined. Its hull gleamed with an otherworldly black material that seemed to drink in light itself. "Their message was specific," she said, activating the replay. A hologram materialized, a tall reptilian figure in ceremonial armor that looked like it had been designed by someone who'd watched too many space medieval dramas. "Humans," the Krax'thari commander's voice boomed with unnecessary volume. "I am Supreme War Prince Zeke of the Obsidian Talons. Your primitive species has been deemed unworthy of independence. Submit to our superior civilization or witness the full might of our technological advancement." "Well," muttered Dr. Patel from R&D, "at least they're humble about it." "They've given us 6 hours left to respond," Admiral Chen continued. "Their warriors are impressive." She brought up the intelligence briefing. "Each member of the Obsidian Talons pilots a biomechanical battlesuit that's practically invulnerable to conventional weapons. They've conquered 17 systems using these suits alone." What about unconventional weapons? Colonel Martinez leaned forward, studying the data. There's got to be a weak point in their technology. That's when Lieutenant Commander Zhang, who'd been quietly checking something on her tablet, started laughing. Not the nervous chuckle of someone facing impending doom, but the full-bodied laugh of someone who'd just realized something absolutely ridiculous. "Ma'am," she managed between giggles, "you remember last month's incident with the quantum AI in Hangar Bay 17? Admiral Chen's expression shifted from confusion to horror. "You don't mean the one where that crazy mechanic fixed a rogue artificial intelligence by hitting it with a wrench until it started behaving?" "Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what I mean." "Lightning Hands Rodriguez," General Williams scoffed, "the guy who retrofitted our entire defense grid using spare parts and colorful language. The same man who jury-rigged a first contact protocol using an old radio, and what he claimed was the power of human stubbornness," Dr. Patel added, beginning to smile. "The one who keeps complaining that alien technology is just fancy garbage with too many blinking lights." "Precisely." Lieutenant Commander Zhang pulled up Zeke's service record, a document that consisted mainly of impossible repairs, violated safety protocols, and notes from increasingly bewildered engineering inspectors. "Look at this report from last week. Subject demonstrated ability to identify and exploit critical design flaws in advanced technology through methods that violate several laws of physics and most of our safety regulations." A contemplative silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. "Are we seriously considering," Admiral Chen began, "sending our grumpiest mechanic to face off against the galaxy's most elite warrior squad?" Colonel Martinez finished. "Because they're all about technological superiority, and we happen to have someone who specializes in turning superior technology into very expensive paperweights." "It's completely insane," General Williams stated flatly. Then he grinned. "Which is exactly why those stuck-up lizards won't see it coming." Admiral Chen sighed deeply, already imagining the paperwork this would generate. "Lieutenant Commander, please fetch Mr. Rodriguez and make sure he brings that wrench of his." She paused, then added, "and maybe some duct tape, just in case." As Zhang hurried off, Dr. Patel examined the hologram of the Krax'thari war prince again. "You know," she mused, "for a species so technologically advanced, they seem to have overlooked one crucial detail about humanity." "What's that?" General Williams asked. "The more complex you make something, the more creative humans get about breaking it." No, Combat Instructor Lee pinched the bridge of her nose, watching Zeke completely ignore proper combat stance in favor of examining the training robot's joints. "Mr. Rodriguez, you're supposed to be learning hand-to-hand combat, not whatever this is." "Hang on," Zeke muttered, tapping the robot's knee servo with Bessie. "Whoever programmed this thing's movement patterns clearly never heard of mechanical efficiency. Look at this waste of energy." He gave the joint another experimental tap. "No wonder it's making that grinding noise." "The grinding noise is intentional. It's supposed to be intimidating. It's supposed to be stupid is what it is." Zeke pulled a multi-tool from his ever-present tool belt. "Give me 5 minutes and I'll have this bucket of bolts moving like it was designed by someone with actual engineering sense." In the observation room above, Admiral Chen watched with growing concern as their supposed champion proceeded to completely disassemble the military's most advanced combat training robot. "He's been here for 3 hours, Colonel Martinez noted, and so far he's fixed 4 training robots, rewired our simulation chamber because he didn't like the lighting, and spent 45 minutes explaining to the AI combat instructor why its tactical algorithms were, and I quote, an offense to computational efficiency everywhere." Down in the training room, the robot suddenly sprung to life, executing a perfect series of martial arts moves with ballet-like grace. Zeke nodded approvingly while Instructor Lee stared in bewilderment. "How did you—" "Simple. Your servo timing was off by 0.03 seconds. Amateur mistake, really. Now it's actually energy efficient instead of just looking flashy." He paused thoughtfully. "Though I did add a little something extra to the hydraulic system. Watch this." He pressed a button and the robot began breakdancing. Admiral Chen buried her face in her hands. "Please tell me he's at least reviewed the combat briefing materials." "Oh, he's been reading all right," Lieutenant Commander Zhang reported, pulling up the station's data access logs. "He's gone through every technical manual we have on Krax'thari ship designs, twice. He seemed particularly interested in their environmental control systems. Their environmental systems, they're sending their most elite warriors, and he's studying their air conditioning. According to his notes, and I quote, "Any species dumb enough to route their critical life support through their weapons cooling system deserves what's coming to them." The Admiral was about to respond when General Williams burst into the observation room, looking flustered. "We have a problem. The Krax'thari have moved up their timeline. They'll be here in 1 hour, and Rodriguez hasn't even been to the armory yet." They rushed down to the training room, only to find Zeke calmly packing up his tool belt. The disassembled remains of the combat robot were scattered around him in what appeared to be a meticulous organizational system that made sense only to him. "Mr. Rodriguez," Admiral Chen began carefully, "shouldn't you be getting equipped for combat? The armory has our most advanced battlesuits." "Nah," Zeke replied, checking that Bessie was securely holstered. "Those things would just slow me down. Besides, I've got everything I need right here." He patted his tool belt lovingly. The assembled military brass stared in horror at his chosen equipment: one wrench, a multi-tool, some duct tape, a handful of spare parts that might have once belonged to a coffee maker, and what appeared to be a lucky rubber duck with googly eyes. But the Obsidian Talons," General Williams sputtered. "Their battlesuits are the most advanced technology in the known galaxy." Zeke's eyes lit up with the special kind of madness unique to engineers who've just spotted a really interesting problem. "Exactly, which means they've got plenty of fancy parts that can break." He grinned, showing far too many teeth. "And if there's one thing I know about fancy parts, it's that they always break in the most entertaining ways possible when you know exactly where to hit them." As their champions strolled out whistling an old mechanic's ditty, Admiral Chen turned to her colleagues. "We're about to face the galaxy's most elite warriors with nothing but a wrench and misplaced confidence, aren't we?" "On the bright side," Dr. Patel offered, "at least we'll go down in history, one way or another." The designated meeting point was Earth's largest space station, Orbital Platform Alpha. The Krax'thari had insisted on a neutral venue for what they called the formal submission of inferior species. The human delegation waited in the main hangar bay, which had been hastily decorated with diplomatic flags and what someone thought passed for ceremonial lighting. At precisely 1400 hours Earth Standard Time, the hangar's massive doors parted to admit the Obsidian Talons shuttle. It was a masterpiece of engineering, sleek, black, and radiating enough power to run a small city. The vessel touched down with perfect precision, its landing creating a symmetrical pattern of energy ripples across the deck. The shuttle's main hatch opened with a dramatically timed hiss of steam, revealing Supreme War Prince Zeke and his elite squad. Their biomechanical battlesuits made them look like a cross between ancient samurai and something out of a chrome enthusiast's fever dream. Each warrior carried weapons that could level a small continent. "Humans!" Zeke boomed, his voice modulated to what he clearly thought was an impressive resonance. "We have arrived to witness your—" He trailed off, reptilian eyes narrowing at the sight before him. Instead of an honor guard or military delegation, there was just a small welcoming committee, and at its center, leaning against a maintenance cart and sipping from a thermos, stood a human in oil-stained coveralls. The human appeared to be doing a crossword puzzle. "Hold that thought, big guy," Zeke said without looking up. "Anyone know a 7-letter word for mechanical failure? Because I'm thinking it might be Krax'thari." He chuckled at his own joke. The silence that followed was heavy enough to have its own gravitational field. "What," Zixatal's voice crackled with barely contained rage, "is the meaning of this insult?" Admiral Chen stepped forward, maintaining an admirably straight face. "Supreme War Prince Zixtal, may I present Earth's chosen champion, Chief Engineer Zeke Rodriguez. You dare mock the Obsidian Talons?" One of the alien warriors stepped forward, his battlesuit sensors glowing an angry red. "We are the most elite fighting force in 17 systems." "Neat," Zeke replied, finally looking up. He squinted at the warrior's battlesuit. "Hey, quick question. That plasma modulator on your left shoulder, is it supposed to be making that clicking sound?" The warrior's anger turned to confusion. "What clicking?" A distinct click emanated from his shoulder, followed by a concerning whir. "Yeah, that's what I thought." Zeke took another sip of coffee. "You've got your quantum harmonics all out of whack. Probably losing about 40% efficiency minimum. Amateur hour, really." Supreme War Prince Zeke Rodriguez's scales shifted colors in what might have been indignation. You dare critique our superior technology? Our battlesuits are the pinnacle of Krax'thari engineering. Superior? Please. Zeke finally put down his crossword and thermos, pushing off from the cart. I've seen better power distribution in a jury-rigged toaster. And don't even get me started on your structural support layout. Who puts a primary power coupling next to a thermal vent? That's just asking for trouble. The alien warriors exchanged uncertain glances. This wasn't how first contact usually went. Enough! Zeke Rodriguez's voice boomed through the hangar. We are not here to discuss engineering. We are here to accept your surrender. Yeah, about that. Zeke pulled out Bessie, twirling the wrench thoughtfully. See, I've been reading up on your ships. Really interesting stuff. Especially that neat little quirk about how your life support systems are integrated with your weapons cooling. Real elegant design. His grin turned predatory. Would be a shame if someone were to adjust it. For the first time in recorded history, the Supreme War Prince of the Obsidian Talons looked uncertain. You read our technical manuals? Oh yeah, fascinating reading. Particularly enjoyed the section about your quantum-shifted battlecruisers. Got to admit, routing all your shield harmonics through a single resonance chamber is a bold choice. He gestured at their shuttle with Bessie. Speaking of which, you might want to check your port stabilizer. That harmonic variance is going to cause you grief in about, 3 minutes. Right on cue, the shuttle emitted a high-pitched whine. Impossible, one of the warriors exclaimed. Our technology is perfect. We have conquered 17 systems. 17 systems full of people who were too polite to tell you your engineering sucks? Zeke shrugged. Look, I get it. You went for flash over function. Common rookie mistake. But seriously. He pointed at various parts of their battlesuits. That servo needs realignment. That power coupling is one sneeze away from failure. And whoever designed your thermal management system should be ashamed of themselves. The Krax'thari warriors were now openly fidgeting, some of them surreptitiously checking their suit diagnostics. Supreme War Prince Zeke Rodriguez's scales had shifted to an interesting shade of pale green. You know what your real problem is? Zeke continued, warming to his subject. Over-engineering. You've got so many redundant systems, they're actually interfering with each other. It's like watching a room full of middle managers try to change a light bulb. Admiral Chen, who had been watching this exchange with growing amazement, finally cleared her throat. Perhaps we should proceed with the, formal proceedings. Oh, right. Zeke straightened up, adopting what he probably thought was a formal pose. So here's the deal. You can either turn around and leave, or I can start pointing out all the critical design flaws in your equipment in detail with demonstrations. Supreme War Prince Zeke Rodriguez looked at Earth's champion, this oil-stained human, with a wrench and an unnervingly thorough knowledge of their technical specifications, and made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Unfortunately for him, it was the wrong one. We will not be intimidated by a mere mechanic. Obsidian Talons, prepare for combat. Finally, Zeke grinned, giving Bessie a practice swing. I was hoping you'd say that. Now, about that plasma modulator. The battle, if you could call it that, began with Supreme War Prince Zeke Rodriguez making what military historians would later describe as a critical error in judgment. He tried to shoot Zeke. The plasma blast from his battlesuit's primary weapon should have vaporized the human mechanic. Instead, Zeke had already ducked under a nearby console, muttering about power fluctuations. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about, his voice echoed from somewhere beneath the deck plating. Your plasma containment is running way too hot. Give it about 30 seconds, and that whole arm assembly is going to lock up. Silence, Zeke Rodriguez roared, then paused as his suit's right arm became increasingly difficult to move. What is happening? Basic thermodynamics, buddy. There was a metallic clang, followed by the distinct sound of someone rewiring something that really shouldn't be rewired. Also, you might want to take about 3 steps to your left. I will not fall for your primitive. The deck plate beneath Zeke Rodriguez's feet suddenly vented steam, causing his battlesuit to stumble exactly 3 steps to the left. Told you, environmental control systems are my specialty. Zeke emerged from a maintenance hatch that definitely hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. Now, about that quantum harmonics issue. 2 Obsidian Talon warriors moved to flank him, their weapons charging with an ominous hum. Zeke ignored them completely, instead walking straight up to their shuttle, with the confident stride of someone about to commit authorized maintenance. "Don't mind me, just gonna take a quick look at your propulsion matrix. It's making this weird resonance that's driving me crazy." He disappeared into the shuttle before anyone could stop him. "Stop him," Zixtal commanded, but his warriors had their own problems. One was frantically trying to disengage his helmet's environmental controls, which had started playing what sounded suspiciously like Earth polka music. Another found his suit's servos locked in what appeared to be a permanent chicken dance position. "Oh yeah," Zeke's voice echoed from inside the shuttle. "This is even worse than I thought. Who designed this power distribution grid? A caffeinated octopus? Hold on, let me just..." There was a series of clangs, followed by the distinctive sound of duct tape being applied with extreme prejudice. Warning lights began flashing across every battlesuit's display. Somehow, their quantum-encrypted command networks were being overwritten with what appeared to be coffee maker maintenance protocols. "Did you know," Zeke continued conversationally, emerging from the shuttle covered in even more grease than before, "that your entire fleet systems are synchronized through quantum entanglement? Pretty clever, actually. Means all the ships share the same basic coding structure." He grinned. "Also means they share the same basic flaws." Supreme War Prince Zixtal watched in horror as his elite warriors' battlesuits began to malfunction in increasingly bizarre ways. One started playing ancient Earth disco music through its external speakers. Another's translation matrix switched to speaking exclusively in bad poetry. "You cannot defeat the might of the Krax'thari Empire with a mere wrench," Zixtal declared, though his voice modulator chose that moment to shift to a squeaky falsetto. "Wanna bet?" Zeke held up Bessie lovingly. "This mere wrench has fixed quantum drives, realigned temporal stabilizers, and once convinced a coffee machine to achieve sentience. Though that last one was probably a mistake, thing won't stop trying to optimize everyone's caffeine intake." He ducked under another warrior's wild swing, using the momentum to access a maintenance panel on the suit's back. "See, here's your problem right here. You've got your primary power routing through a single-phase quantum converter, amateur hour." A few quick adjustments with Bessie, and the warrior's suit began performing an enthusiastic rendition of the Macarena. But our technology is superior," one of the remaining functional warriors protested. "Superior?" Zeke scoffed, now somehow simultaneously rewiring 3 different systems while drinking from his seemingly bottomless thermos. "Your idea of superior technology is slapping quantum fields on everything and hoping it works. Here's a pro tip. Sometimes a good old-fashioned wrench is all you need." To demonstrate his point, he gave a nearby panel a solid whack with Bessie. The impact somehow triggered a cascade of system failures throughout the entire Krax'thari fleet. Battlesuits began shutting down, ships lost power, and at least one cruiser's AI decided it wanted to pursue a career in interpretive dance. "Did you just..." Admiral Chen stared in disbelief. "Disable an entire alien fleet by hitting it with a wrench?" "Technically," Zeke replied, applying more duct tape to something that was probably important. "I used the wrench to trigger a quantum resonance cascade that exploited their over-reliance on synchronized systems. Also, I may have replaced some of their combat protocols with my coffee machine's maintenance routines." The last functioning Obsidian Talon warrior looked at his disabled comrades, then at his own suit's display, which was now showing a detailed tutorial on proper coffee bean storage. "This is impossible." Zixtal's voice had returned to normal, but his battlesuit was now stuck in what appeared to be an infinite boot loop. "Our engineers spent decades perfecting these systems." "Yeah, well, your engineers never had to fix a quantum drive with nothing but duct tape and spite at 3 in the morning. Zeke patted the shuttle's hull sympathetically. "You guys focus so much on making things complicated, you forget the first rule of engineering. If it ain't broke, you're not looking hard enough." With a final dramatic flourish of his wrench, Zeke triggered what he later described in his repair log as a minor adjustment to their fleet's quantum stability matrix. The result was every single Krax'thari ship simultaneously experiencing what could only be described as a technological identity crisis. Battle computers began running recipe applications, navigation systems started calculating knitting patterns. The flagship's main AI developed a sudden and intense interest in 21st century soap operas. Supreme War Prince Zixtal, now trapped in a battlesuit that would only move in reverse while playing calming whale sounds, finally admitted defeat. How? He asked, watching his mighty fleet reduced to a collection of very expensive, very confused machinery. How did one human with a wrench defeat the most advanced military force in the galaxy? Zeke shrugged, already heading back to his maintenance cart. Simple. I just gave your superior technology exactly what it needed. A real mechanic's touch. He paused, then added with a grin. Also, you really should have read the warning labels on those quantum harmonics. Never route your primary systems through the same circuit as your coffee maker. That's just asking for trouble. The formal surrender of the Krax'thari Empire took place aboard Orbital Platform Alpha, though not quite in the manner anyone expected. Supreme War Prince Zeke signed the peace treaty, while his battlesuit performed an interpretive dance routine to classical music, a lingering effect of Zeke's repairs that no one had been able to fix. Furthermore, Zeke read from the treaty, his voice occasionally glitching into what sounded like a game show host's enthusiasm. The Krax'thari Empire formally acknowledges humanity's superior engineering capabilities. He shuddered at the last words, casting a nervous glance at Zeke, who was absently fixing a coffee machine in the corner. Did you hear something rattling in the quantum manifold? Zeke called out, not looking up from his work. Every Krax'thari warrior in the room flinched. The treaty terms were unprecedented. The Empire agreed to establish a joint engineering oversight committee, mandatory maintenance training programs, and most importantly, a galaxy-wide ban on what they now called unnecessarily complicated systems design. News of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy faster than a quantum cascade failure. The headlines were spectacular. Human mechanic defeats elite alien force with single wrench. Krax'thari Empire surrenders, citing traumatic engineering experience. Local maintenance worker saves Earth, complains about paperwork. Back on Earth, the United Defense Council was dealing with an unexpected problem. Their reluctant hero wanted nothing to do with fame. Look, Zeke explained to a room full of admirals, generals, and increasingly frustrated PR specialists, I appreciate the medals and all, but I've got a fusion reactor that needs recalibrating in Bay 17. Those plasma injectors aren't going to align themselves. But you're a hero, General Williams protested. The people want to hear your story. There's talk of a movie deal. A movie? About what? Me telling aliens their engineering sucks and hitting things with a wrench until they work? Zeke snorted. Besides, someone needs to fix all these superior alien ships they left behind. Have you seen their maintenance logs? It's like they never heard of regular oil changes. Despite his protests, Zeke's legacy had already taken on a life of its own. The wrench became a symbol of human ingenuity across the galaxy. Engineering schools added creative problem-solving with limited tools to their curricula, though no one could quite replicate Zeke's unique approach to mechanical psychology. The Krax'thari, meanwhile, underwent a complete cultural transformation. Their engineering schools now emphasized simplicity and maintenance accessibility. Their military discontinued the use of synchronized quantum systems, citing potential vulnerability to caffeine-based reprogramming. As for Zeke, he did what he did best. He went back to work. The only noticeable changes were the occasional alien engineering student who would show up at his bay, hoping to learn the mysteries of the wrench, and a new sign on his workspace that read, Warning, unauthorized quantum modifications in progress. 6 months after the incident, Admiral Chen found him in his usual spot, half buried under a maintenance panel, creative multilingual swearing echoing through the bay. The Andromedan Confederation wants to meet humanity's engineering champion, she informed him. Apparently, they've developed some new, unhackable quantum encryption system. A muffled clang came from under the panel, followed by, Tell them their encryption's probably routed through their environmental controls, like every other over-engineered piece of space junk out here. Actually, the Admiral smiled, that's exactly why they want to meet you. They're worried their system might be vulnerable to, what did they call it? Aggressive maintenance procedures. Zeke emerged, covered in grease but grinning. Well, can't let them keep building things wrong, can we? He patted Bessie affectionately. Just let me finish fixing this quantum regulator. Someone thought it would be smart to install it upside down and backwards, again. And so, as humanity took its place among the stars, a new saying spread through the galaxy. Beware the species that fixes their most advanced technology with duct tape and attitude. They've learned to make anything work, whether it wants to or not. In the end, the greatest warrior the Krax'thari Empire ever faced wasn't a soldier with a weapon, but a grumpy mechanic with a wrench and a very low tolerance for poor engineering.